I'm Dr. Donald Bevins for WPRG TV5, Pike and Floyd County's very own and your local hometown television. Welcome to another public affairs program here on local hometown TV, WPRG. And joining me today at the WPRG TV5 studios is the Pike County, Floyd County woman who was born to write. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to the host of the WPRG TV program called Writers Reading, and Ernestine. Thank you for joining us today here at the WPRG studios.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, now, you're certainly no stranger to WPRG TV5 because for several years now you have been hosting a program called Writers Reading.
That's right. I have loved doing that, too.
And how long have you been doing the Writers Reading program?
You know, I'm really not sure. I think probably we did it for about a year or two, and then we quit for a while, and then we started it again, and I'm thinking maybe 4 or 5 years in all.
So for the past 4 or 5 years, you've been on WPRG TV spotlighting the creative talents of Eastern Kentuckians, young and old, through the Writers Reading program. We've had some very prominent people that you've had on the program that you have interviewed, and they've had a chance to read their poetry before the WPRG TV5 viewing audience throughout Eastern Kentucky and southern West Virginia. We hope people have certainly enjoyed the program over the years. I know they have because we received quite a few comments on the program. A little bit later on, we'll talk about some of the guests that you've had on the show. And just recently, we had a very highly successful Writers Reading poetry contest, right?
Right. I always enjoy the contest. That, to me, is more fun than anything because you get a whole lot of people on the show and everybody's excited because they won money. So I love that.
Well, now, on the programs before, you have been doing the interviewing. Today, we are interviewing you, and we are going to talk about the lady born to write, and that is Ernestine Meade.
And I'm nervous. I told you that. I'm used to being the one who does the interviewing, and I'm not used to people asking me questions and putting me on the spot.
Well, I'm not going to do that today, but we are going to talk about the Writers Reading program. We're going to talk about your life and the fact that you were born to write and you have become a very successful writer. You are the author of 2 books of poetry now. Mm-hmm. I think that you're also working on a novel, and just recently one of your poems has been turned into a song and has recently been published and has been issued on a cassette tape called America, and has been recorded down in, where was the song recorded, in Nashville?
No, in Hollywood.
Oh, in Hollywood. Well, which is bigger, Hollywood or California, huh? Maybe you'll write a movie script someday, huh?
Oh,
Born to write. Maybe that's the next step. You recently, I think last week, Ernestine, were featured in the local Appalachian News Express newspaper, and we'll get Brian. Brian Lee is our cameraman today, running the camera, and we'll get Brian to zoom in and show us the featured article that was in the local Appalachian News Express newspaper, and this appeared on the front page of the paper. Born to write, Hurricane Creek woman has poem turned into a song. And that's a picture of Ernestine right there. And Ernestine, are you learning to play piano, or do you already know how to play piano because you're sitting at the keyboard there?
Well, when Kim came to interview me, she asked me if I could play the piano, and I said, I'm trying to learn. And so she asked me to sit at the piano. I said, well, do I have to play? Because I can't play with you here. And she said, no, just sit there and pretend to play. I'm doing okay, though. I enjoy it.
Yeah, so are you taking professional piano lessons from anyone, or are you just learning to play yourself?
No, I'm taking lessons from Dina Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
She's a really good teacher, and I'm enjoying it.
Okay, well, now, if your poems are going to be turned into songs, I suppose learning to play the piano and accompany yourself at the keyboard there, will that help in your writing ability? For writing songs?
I suppose if I learned how to play well enough, it would. Okay. I'm just not sure I have the talent to do that.
Well, born to write, apparently there's some talent there, isn't there? And let's read the introduction to what the Appalachian News Express newspaper has to say about the Hurricane Creek woman from Hurricane Creek in Pike County who's born to write. We'll read you the opening introduction, and again, it does show Ernestine at the piano, and this was written by staff writer for the Appalachian News Express, Kim Stacy, and this is what Kim writes. She writes, Dateline Hurricane Creek in Pike County. Some people are born knowing what they were meant to do in life, and so begins a cycle from small achievements to bigger and bigger things. For Eastern Kentucky's Ernestine Tina Collins Meade, the wheels of time have not changed her destiny nor her fate to become the best writer she can possibly be. And when she dies, she hopes to leave a legacy behind, one of having the effect to touch other people's lives through her writing. Her salvation and inspiration in life has been to be a writer, from her small, feeble attempts at writing poetry as a child to her most recent accomplishment of having one of her poems turned into a song. Ernestine Tina Collins Mead is not only an accomplished writer, but has recently started taking piano lessons, a talent which could come in handy because one of Ernestine Mead's poems has been turned into a song. And I think, Ernestine, that right here that Kim Stacy, the writer of the article on the Appalachian News Express newspaper, hit upon the key element of it all when she says that you hope to leave a legacy behind what of having the effect to touch other people's lives through your writing. Is that what it's all about, to touch other people's lives through writing?
Right. I don't see any point in writing just for myself or writing for money. I really don't expect to get money and don't really want it. I just love it when somebody tells me they have read one of my poems and it meant something to them. And usually if 2 or 3 people read one, they'll all get something different out of it because they apply it to their own lives. The poem that you've written that has been turned into a song, what is the poem called? The Sandman.
The Sandman, and is this the cassette tape that is being published on? And we'll get Ron to zoom in. Show us the cassette tape. And the song is called The Sandman. Now, this is not a cassette tape of all of your songs. You have one song on this, and then I suppose there are about a dozen songs in all, but it's a complication of material that various artists have recorded. What's the artist who has recorded your song on this tape?
Her name is Sandy Connor.
Sandy Connor, and she's recorded the song. She's one of the singers.
Right.
What are some of the other songs on the tape?
Well, one of the ones that really touched me was called Wheel Me to the Window, and it's sung by a man, and it's apparently about a man who's in a wheelchair, and he's wanting to go to the window so he can look out at the autumn colors before it goes away, which apparently means that he's about to die and he's wanting, to look outside. It's really good. There are quite a few that are good on there.
Okay, but I guess the important thing that we're talking about is that our very own from Pike and Floyd County, Ernestine Mead, has one of her poems that has been made into a song, and that song has been recorded on this cassette tape called America. Now, did you send the song in, or did the people putting this album together contact you, Ernestine?
They contacted me, and I have no idea how they got my name, except that I did have an agent, a literary agent, for a time in California, so it's possible they could have got my name from him. I just don't know.
But anyway, they contacted you and said, Ernestine, we are putting together an album, and we are interested in finding some poetry that we think could be transposed into some good songs, and would you like to submit some of your poetry? So you submitted The Sandman, and then Sandy recorded it, and then they put it out on this cassette tape.
Yeah, and that really wasn't the one I expected them to like. I think I sent 6, and it really surprised me that it was that one.
Yeah. Well, what's the song The Sandman all about?
Well, it's about a woman or a man who cannot have the love of her life or his life, and so all she can do is dream about him. And so in her dreams, the Sandman brings her the man that she wants.
So we're talking about the Sandman like the little children's story that we hear about the Sandman that comes to put little chick kids to sleep, put them to sleep like, Sandman's coming, yes, he's coming to take you to your dreams. That's what you mean by the Sandman. The Sandman that brings sand into your eyes and makes you sleepy, and then you can enter the world of reality to the world of dreamland, and what you dream, you can dream any fantasy that you want to, and when you dream dreams, why not, as Brenda Lee was saying, why not dream those sweet dreams? Right? So that's what the song is all about.
Yeah, you can have anything you want in your dreams.
Yeah, anything that you want. You can be anything that you want to be in your dreams. What book was the song The Sandman published in?
It was in American Road.
Okay, why don't you read the poem, The Sandman, if you will. Read the poem, and again, it is about a person who has a dream lover. You read the poem, and then I think we have a young man in here who's going to sing and perform the song for us, right? Okay, first of all, read the song. The Sandman.
The Sandman tells me it will be all right. He says that I'll be lying in your arms tonight, and you'll be holding me and squeezing so tight. The Sandman will make it all right. Sandman, Sandman, without you, tell me, what would I do? You're the one who makes all my dreams come true. Sandman, I love you. The Sandman tells me I can count on him to help me win the prizes I could never win. And you're the only thing I seek from him. The Sandman is at it again. Sandman, Sandman, without you, tell me, what would I do? You're the one who makes all my dreams come true. Sandman, I love you.
Sandman, from Ernestine Mead's collection of poems called Up Hurricane Creek Road. Now, this is a song that has been, again, recorded on this cassette tape. Is this available on CD or just on cassette tape?
Just on cassette, I think.
Just on cassette tape. Okay. Now, we just heard the poem as read by Ernestine Mead and published in her book called Up Hurricane Creek Road. And now, Ernestine, I think we don't have the person who sang the song on the tape right here with us, but we have a young man who is going to sing the song. You read the poem. Now the poem has been converted into a song, and we're going to get Ronnie over here to sing it for us. So tell us a little bit about Ronnie right there before we give the microphone to Ronnie.
Okay. Well, his name is Ronnie Mullins, and Ronnie is my cousin, and whom I really hadn't met until just recent years. But I heard him singing once at a birthday party for my first cousin, and I really enjoyed it. And so I contacted him to be on Writer's Reading, and he said he would, and he came on and he sang a song that he had written, and also some other songs, and I enjoy listening to Ronnie, and I think you all will too.
Where do you live, Ronnie?
Mare Creek.
You live on Mare Creek. Okay. Okay, that's terrific. Mare Creek in Floyd County that we're talking about, all right? Now, have you practiced the song very much?
Yeah.
So you practice it, you know all the words, you know the lyrics now, and you're ready to sing it. Is this pretty much the way it is? I know we got a woman that is singing it on the record, but Ernestine, does it make any difference whether they got a woman or a man singing it?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. All right. Well, let's turn it over, and we'll get Ronnie over here, and Ronnie's going to accompany himself over here on the flat top guitar. And, of course, Ronnie was one of the previous guests on the Writer's Reading program hosted by Ernestine Mead, and now Ronnie is going to get ready, and just put it all the way up there to the top, Ronnie. There you go. Stick it right in there. Okay. All right. Now you're going to accompany yourself on the guitar. How many chords the song got in it, by the way, Ronnie?
About 6.
Okay, about 6 chords.
It was hard to learn.
It's got the tonic, the dominant, and the subdominant, and then about 3 more, right?
I don't know. I just play by ear.
Okay, the Sandman. All right, performed by Ronnie. Let's go, Ronnie.
Sandman tells me it will be alright. He says I'll be lying in your arms tonight, and you'll be squeezing me and holding so tight. The Sandman will make it alright. Sandman, Sandman, without you, tell me, what will I do? You're the only one who makes my dreams come true. Sandman, I love you. The Sandman tells me I can count on him to help me win prizes I could never win. Now you're the only thing I seek from him. The Sandman is at it again. Sandman, Sandman, without you, tell me, what will I do? You're the only one who makes my dreams come true. Sandman, I love you. Sandman, I love you.
All right, Ronnie, way to go. Okay, good job, good job. Ronnie, do you play around the area anywhere?
I go up and sing at Marlowe's a lot. Hang around up there.
Yeah.
He's real good to me.
Yeah. So he lets you get up on stage up there before the audience up there a little bit. Do you ever perform in Pikeville during the Hillbilly Days out at the park any?
Well, I was going to last year, but I didn't, and I was going to this year, but I'm not going to be able to.
What happened? How come?
I have to go into the hospital this week.
Yeah.
And that's going to make me miss Hillbilly
Well,
Days.
it's going to make you miss Hillbilly Days. Well, maybe next year we can see you down there at the Pikeville City Park and get you to perform more than one song down there next year.
Yeah.
But we certainly want to thank you for coming by and performing Ernestine Mead's poem turned into a song called Sandman. You enjoy doing that song?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, okay?
All right.
All right. Now, that's Ronnie, and he just performed a song called Sandman. We heard Ernestine Mead read her poem, Sandman, from the book Up Hurricane Creek Road. And now we just heard Ronnie perform that song as it has been, the poem as it has been turned into a song. Again, the song has just been released on this cassette tape, which is a collection of different songs, including the poem that has now been turned into a song. Of course, composed, written by our local author from Eastern Kentucky, by Ernestine Mead. And again, Sandman is available on this cassette tape. And Ernestine, this has a really nice cover on it, doesn't it? The tape is called America. Yeah. Okay, so how do people get a hold of this tape if they want to get it?
To tell you the truth, I have no idea.
Call you and...
Call me. I will be getting some copies, and so I'll probably have them available at different stores here. But the Hilltop Records is supposed to distribute them throughout the country, but I don't know where.
So they're going to be distributing rack jobbers, probably putting them in different music places, and maybe some radio airplay might pick up. You know, that's a very good song. Maybe some of the local radio stations in Pike and Floyd counties might pick up and start playing this song once they find out it was written by a local Pike County author.
I hope so. I have a nephew who's a DJ down in Tennessee, and I sent him a copy of it, and he said he would play it on his radio program.
So he's on the radio station there. Well, sure would be nice to hear it on the radio stations locally, and what would be even better if the song turned out to be a big hit song, and you could get a good royalty check out of that. That would be even nicer, wouldn't it, huh? Or maybe you write a movie theme song sometime. Anyway, the song called Sandman, and it's about an imaginary lover, about a dream lover who can be perfect in your dreams, can it? And that's what it's all about, is Sandman. Hey, I love you. We're going to be reading some more of your poems that you have from your 2 books. I think you've chosen about 3 or 4 poems that you're going to let me read, and then I think you're going to read maybe 3 or 4 more of your poems in addition to the Sandman poem that we just heard. Well, I'm Dr. Donald Bevins for WPRG TV5, Pike and Floyd County's very own, your local hometown television. And today we're talking with the lady who was born to write, Ernestine Mead, the host of the WPRG TV5 Writers Reading Program, and also the author of 2 books of poetry, and also working now on a couple of novels and some children's books, and now a songwriter who has just had her first song recorded called Mr. Sandman by Ernestine Mead. Ernestine, let's go back and start a little bit at the beginning and find out what inspired you to write. First of all, tell us a little bit about your early life. Tell us about your family, who your parents were, where you grew up.
Okay, my parents were Leonard and Mary Adkins, and we lived on Mare Creek behind the schoolhouse on Mare Creek, which is now a church building.
Talk about Mare Creek in Floyd County.
Right. And I used to just play around the school building all the time, and I guess the first time I ever actually remember writing was when my father was trying to write a book. He had a goal to have a book published, and he would have me and my sister take notes for him. And I can remember writing with those big round blue pencils and taking notes, and he would dictate to us, and we would write. And then, of course, in school, I did some writing. I took creative writing in high school and then in college. It's just something that I've always enjoyed doing.
So then after, what about after the grade school and the high school? Where did you go to high school?
Well, I went to Prestonsburg High School for 2.5 years, and then we moved to Pikeville, so I went to Pikeville City Schools and graduated there, and then went to Pikeville College. And
what was your major at Pikeville College? Was it in English and writing again there?
English, yes.
English was your major at the college. And then what happened then after graduation from college?
Well, after graduation, I started working for a law firm, Stratton Mann Hayes, which is now Stratton May Hayes and Hogg. And I worked there for 5 years, and I continued to write poetry. I would take poetry to work with me and let people read it there. And then I quit working when I had my first child, after I got married and had my first child. And we moved to Texas. While we were here, I was a little bit embarrassed to let people read my poetry because, you know, when you're in your own hometown, you think you're going to get
This is before you made the move to Texas, to the Lone Star State, yes.
Yeah, but when we moved to Texas, nobody knew me down there. So I could show my poetry there. And I started publishing a small poetry magazine called Poetry Plain and Pure. And I solicited other people and got poems from other people. I had a subscription, people subscribed to the magazine. And my kids and I would get out on the streets in Texas and sell that magazine. I remember one day we
Talk about free enterprise and entrepreneurship. Here you are hustling poems and selling poems on the street.
Well, and to be real, I had little kids. My oldest child was probably 8, and I have 4. So here I was dragging a baby, carrying a baby on my hip, and had 3 other little kids, going up and down the street selling these poetry magazines. And I remember one day I sold 7 in one outing, and I was so excited. Of course, I only sold it for $1, so I only made $7, but that wasn't the point.
Mm-hmm.
It was just that people were actually buying it.
Yeah. So that pleased you to no end, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is while you're in Texas. So how long were you there in the Lone Star State?
We were there 2 years.
Yes.
And then when we came back here, well, I had worked for Mark Sohn before I left.
Mark Sohn, professor of psychology at Pikeville College and the host of Classic Home Cooking with Mark Sohn on WPRG TV5.
Right. So when I came back here, I called him up and told him that I was back if he needed me to do any more proofreading. Or I've done a little bit of everything for him. I did some bookkeeping for him. I've done some typing for him and proofreading and editing. And I told him that I had written a lot of poetry and that I was interested in getting a book published. And I knew through getting the Pike County newspaper while I was in Texas that he had published a book for Eugene Cisco.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked him to give me some pointers, and he said that he would be willing to publish the book for me. So that's how I got down Bear Creek Road.
So down Bear Creek Road, that is your first book of poetry, and again, that was published by Mark Sohn Publishing Company. Mark Sohn, professor of psychology at Pikeville College, and also the host of the very popular Classic Home Cooking with Dr. Mark Sohn. Now, that's the first book. Now, now the second book.
The second book, I decided I wanted to try my hand at publishing. I had been helping Mark do some things, and I had learned a lot along the way. And I homeschool my children, and the name of our school is Mountain Haven Academy. So I decided to start me a publishing company and call it Mountain Haven Publications.
Mm-hmm.
So I published a Pelican Road book with my own logo.
Mm-hmm.
Mountain Haven Publications.
So those are how the 2 books came about.
Right.
Now you and I are going to write, we're going to read some of your writing and from these poems here, but before we do that, you mentioned that you were, you teach your own children at home?
Right.
And do you teach other people's kids or just your own?
No, I don't think I could teach other people's kids.
Okay. How many children do you have that you teach at home?
I have 4.
Mm-hmm.
I have one who is in high school. He's a sophomore. That's Seth. And then Aaron is 13, and he's in 7th grade. And Becky is in 5th grade, and Rachel is in 2nd grade.
Mm-hmm. So explain to us how that works. I mean, apparently, you're the mother of these children, but they're not going to the public school at home. You're the teacher, and apparently that is accredited by the state, is it not?
Right. In the state of Kentucky, it's really simple to homeschool. You have to send a letter each year to the Board of Education and tell them that you're homeschooling, the names of your children, what grades they're in, and the name of your school.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically all there is to it. You have to have an attendance record. Of course, they're there every day, but if they're sick and they don't do their work, then you have to count them absent for that day.
Well, do they take tests like kids do in the regular public schools?
You mean like achievement tests?
Yeah.
They don't have to. The state doesn't require it, but I require it for my children because I want to keep, I want to know how well they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So the place that I get our books from, which is in Harrisonburg, Virginia, I can order achievement tests, and I do that each year and test them.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, you think this is very advantageous to you. What do you see as the advantages of being a parent and teaching your own children at home? And are there any disadvantages? Apparently, if there are disadvantages, you consider that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages because this is the way that you're doing it. But are there any disadvantages? And what do you see really the reason for doing that?
Well, my reason for doing it, one thing, I can teach them one-on-one. They get all the attention that they need. We can use a curriculum that is more along the lines of our faith. I I guess the main reason, though, that I do it is that I love having my children with me all day long. I only have, if I'm lucky, 18 years, and then they'll be gone, and I want to spend as much time with them as I can, and I want to be the one to teach them what they need to know. And there are people who will probably tell you there are lots of disadvantages, but I can't think of a single one.
Can't think of a single one.
And a lot of people say they won't be socialized, but my kids have friends. We get together with other homeschoolers. We went to Frankfurt last year, I believe it was. We're going next month to a publishing company in Crockett, and our kids will be touring the publishing company. We have science fairs, we have talent shows, we have a Young Authors Day when we have authors in the area to come and talk to them. And also, since we've got the internet, that's really helped. My son and I talked the other day with the microphone so that we could hear the voices. We talked to a classroom in Canada.
Using the internet.
Yeah. And then my other son has met an older lady. She's 61 years old, and she lives in Livonia, Michigan. And we lived there for a time, and my son went to school in Livonia. So now he's met this lady up there, and they're communicating with each other. So you meet all kinds of people on the internet. My son feels like he has, he's made good friends.
Yeah. On the internet. That's like the World Wide Web. It ties it all right in there, doesn't it? I mean, that's what they're talking about when we're talking about the superhighway is on the www, the World Wide Web, on the internet. It's amazing the technology that has come a long way, hasn't it, since the days on Mary Creek.
Yeah. When I didn't even have a telephone.
Yeah.
And when we first got one, it was a party line.
Party line, and that means that your neighbor that lived 5 miles down the road, if they wanted to pick up that phone and listen in on your conversation, they could do it if they could sneak that up there to where you wouldn't hear the receiver. But no longer do we have the days of the old party line or cranking the telephone with a couple of shorts and a couple of longs.
I don't remember that. That's a little bit too old.
I can remember that barely when I was, 4, 5, 6 years old at my grandparents' William McKinley and William McKinley and Ibby Justice on Upper Cloy. They had the old phone. I can remember them cranking it up when I was a real little kid, and it come in a couple of longs and a couple of shorts. And depending on how many longs or shorts, it let you know that it was your phone and not another neighbor's on your party line, because it'd ring on everybody that had a party line.
I know.
So
I remember the crank phones on like Lassie or Petticoat Junction, maybe. Those shows, I remember seeing them.
So anyway, it's on the World Wide Web and on the internet and online America now, huh?
And I put my poetry on there too.
Your poetry is on the internet?
Yes, I send in poems a lot. They have these different lists. I don't understand much about the internet, but you can get on different lists, and when you send something in, it goes to everybody who's on that list.
Yeah.
And so through the internet, I probably have got my poetry in, who knows, maybe every state. And Russia. I met a lady in Russia, and I'm talking to her, and she said that she's coming to the United States this summer, and she's going to try to visit me.
Amazing. On the internet. Ernestine lives on Hurricane Creek in Pike County, and she converses with a lady in Russia, clean on the other side of the world, using the internet, and it's all affordable. Doesn't cost a lot of money either, does it, huh?
Very cheap.
That's what's really nice about the internet and the World Wide Web, is just about anybody can afford it.
If you can afford the computer.
If you get the PC, when we say PC, that's personal computer, and if you got that, then you're off and running with the internet and the World Wide Web. Well, Ernestine, since people in Russia are reading your poetry, people in Canada are reading your poetry, how about you and I reading some of your poetry?
Okay.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, on the program, we've had, writers reading. You're always reading other people's poetry, but I don't think, we've had a lot of chance to expose your poetry. Of course, we had you reading this Sandman song, and we had Ronnie over here singing that and performing the song called Sandman. Originally a poem, now a song, and available on the cassette tape called America. Right now, Ernestine and I are going to read some of her poems, and Ernestine, I guess I'll hold up. This is the first book, right?
Right.
This is the first book, and this was published by Mark Soane's publishing company, by Pikeville College psychology professor, Mark Soane. And this is the first book, available in hardback, and it is called Down Mare Creek Road by Ernestine Adkins Collins, and now Meade, because you've married Crate since this book came out, right? How long have you and Crate been married?
It'll be 3 years in June.
Okay. Tell us just a little bit about Crate, your husband. Well, and have you written poems about Crate and your relationship with Crate?
Oh, yeah. There are quite a few poems about Crate.
Quite a few poems about Crate.
Crate used to teach school at Mullins. He may have taught you.
I remember Crate Meade teaching school at Mullins, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I think Crate was down there. I didn't have him as one of my teachers, per se, but I remember him being there at Mullins. Yeah,
Okay,
sure
he
do.
taught there for 21 years, and then he
Well, what year did he quit there?
It's been probably 8 years. I can't remember for sure.
So he taught there until about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
What, do you know when he started there?
Well, let's see. He got out of college, I believe, in '66. I believe that's what he told me. So it would have been not long after that.
Yeah. Well, I think he probably came to Mullins shortly after I left there, because I graduated from Mullins in 1966 and then, of course, went on to Poplar College. So he was coming to Mullins. I think he was graduating from college about the same year that I was graduating from the Mullins School.
And I was graduating from 8th grade.
Oh, my. and now now I'm on television, and Crate is your husband, and you're the lady born to write, and now becoming a highly successful songwriter, as well as a very prolific writer of poetry and perhaps soon a novel.
Crate is very encouraging.
Yes. Gives you a lot of support.
Yes.
Morally, spiritually. Yeah.
In every way. He loves to read my poetry, and that makes me feel good.
Was he the perfect man?
Well, now. There is no perfect man.
He's Mr. Sandman to you, isn't he?
Right.
Well, let's read a few of the poetry. Shall I read the first one, or
Okay,
you? Okay,
sure.
I guess then I'll get out my reading glasses here. What's the first poem that I'm going to read here? Okay, I think the first one you have chosen for me to read is called Down Mare Creek Road, and that is the title of the book of poetry. The book is entitled Down Mare Creek Road, and of course Mare Creek in Floyd County is where Ernestine Meade grew up. You live on Hurricane Creek now, but you grew up on...
Well, no, I didn't grow up there. I lived on Mare Creek until I was 7. Then I moved to Wayland. You know where Wayland is?
Well, of course I know where Wayland is. On Right Beaver Creek in Floyd County.
Okay, I lived there a couple of years, and then I moved to Betsy Lane, and then I moved to Prestonsburg, and then I moved to Pikeville. And that's kind of where I grew up in all those places.
So you were not only born to write, but you were born to move. She's about a mover. All right, the first book of poetry is taken, is the title of the poem taken from the book called Down Mare Creek Road. This is on page number 29 in the book. And here is the poem called Down Mare Creek Road. And this is, I guess this is about when you were a little girl, right? Your recollections are like when you were 7, 8 years old, or
Right.
around that time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, now this is Ernestine Meade when she recollects back when she was a younger. The poem is Down Mare Creek Road. Here's the poem. Road, stopping occasionally to pick dust-laden blackberries that grew along the ditch side. The dust didn't hurt the blackberries much. I can still taste the sweet burst of flavor. The sun seemed warmer then, and the days seemed longer, and the water that poured from that eastern Kentucky mountain tasted cooler. And families were together. Now families are no more. And the dust and the blackberries are covered in concrete, but the waterfall still pours. And the barefoot girl that ran down Mare Creek Road is slowly and with surefoot making her way back home. Ernestine, some fine recollections talking about the blackberries.
I can remember that. I can still remember the dust was all over them, but I didn't care. I'd eat them anyway.
You just take them up and perhaps maybe blow a little bit of the
blow it
dust off, or if there was maybe a gnat or a little small insect on that blackberry, you go and then blow it off and then pop it in your mouth, and how sweet it tasted. Nice. The waterfall's still there. The waterfall's still there.
Yes, and you can get good cold water there.
Yeah, you're talking about that barefoot girl.
I used to go up there. When I go to school, our teacher would send us with a bucket to get water from the waterfall. And she would make soup on a pot-bellied stove.
At school. Yeah. Well, times have changed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no pot-bellied stove in the school now. Now it's central air and air conditioning and all that, isn't it? Okay, now you're going to read a poem from your second book, which is called Up Hurricane Road. Hold it up there to the camera, and we'll get a shot of the front cover, and it shows the mailbox there. And since Ernestine is now with her husband, Crate Meade, living on Hurricane Creek in Pike County. Of course, Hurricane Creek is the creek right at the Pike-Floyd County line, near the heart of the Big Sandy Valley. Hurricane Creek is just across the Bowman Bridge. It runs from there to the top of Cedar Gap and then crosses over into Island Creek.
Right. 1384.
1384. And your first poem, Ernestine, that you're going to read from your second book of poetry, and this is the book that you yourself published, right?
Right. Well, since you read Down Mare Creek Road, I'll read Up Hurricane Road.
Okay, the title of the poem.
And I have to say that my husband helped me write this. I am not much of a nature person. I enjoy nature, but I don't write much about nature. But we were driving around one spring day, and we wrote this poem together. It's called Up Hurricane Road. Shh, nature is speaking, and the things it does say. Oh, the splendors that God has created this day. As slowly I drive up Hurricane Road, I'm in awe of the bounty that God has bestowed. Along Hurricane Road, nature is so bold. The beauty of springtime there does unfold. All the beautiful flowers in bright array wave as we pass in the month of May. The phlox and the redbud and dogwood abloom are sweeter than the fragrance of any perfume. I've traveled the world and I've seen many sights, but the greatest of all are nature's delights.
So that song is written about nature, and you say your husband helped you out a little bit with that one.
Yes, because I don't know anything about flowers.
Oh.
So he had to tell me the names of them.
You just know that they're pretty and they smell good and you like them, right? Okay, now I'm going to read a poem that Ernestine has published in her book called Down Mare Creek Road. Again, this is from her first book, and this is called Silhouettes. And we'll get Brian to zoom in here and show us a picture, because this book has some illustrations in it, doesn't it?
Right.
Who's the lady that we're looking at here?
That is my mother, Mary Adkins, and the picture was drawn by my nephew, Jamie Dickey, who is also the one who's the DJ in Tennessee. He drew that picture just for me so that I could put it in the book.
Okay, and again, this is an art illustration of Ernestine's mother, and I'm going to read the poem called Silhouettes. And as I read the poem, you can see why the illustration of her mother is here. The poem is called Silhouettes. Silhouetted on the wall of our small cabin were the hands that rocked the cradle where I lay. Tiny creatures they created for my pleasure in the wee hours just before the break of day. Through the years, these hands were there when they were needed to give comfort, care, and discipline to me. Day and night, with little rest, they never faltered, guiding me through dangers I could not yet see. Now the hands that rock my cradle have grown weary. They're not able to be at my beck and call, so I gently rock the chair of their sweet master and make silhouettes for her upon the wall. The poem entitled Silhouettes. And of course, the hand that rocked the cradle, your mother.
Right. Yeah. Your aunt, Alice Kinder, saw that. It was in the newspaper, and she cut it out and sent it to me, and she said that poem really touched her.
Yeah. Alice Kinder, my aunt, her mother was Ibby Smith Justice. Marvelous woman. Of course, she was married to my grandfather, William McKinley Justice, who was also a very well-known Eastern Kentucky poet.
Right.
And his poetry reached out beyond Eastern Kentucky. As a matter of fact, he was the principal orator for Pikeville College, and he would visit colleges and universities, as my family back then liked to call it, when Papa went up north, because he would go to Massachusetts, or he would go to New Jersey, or he would go to Connecticut, and basically go into the Methodist churches in that area and the universities and raise money in support of Pikeville College, when Pikeville College was just getting started in the Eastern Kentucky mountains.
I read the books that Mrs. Kinder wrote, called The Kentucky Mountains, and what was the other one about her father?
Willie Boy.
Right.
Willie
I
Boy.
love those books.
Yes.
And I told her after I read Call of the Kentucky Mountains, I had been reading a nationally published book before I got her book. And I was enjoying it. It was a good book. But when I got hers and read it, it made me not even want to go back to that other book, because hers was so much better. I really got into the life of your grandfather. He was such a wonderful man.
Well, I'm sure my aunt would be very well pleased to.
Well, I told her.
Yeah, you got to tell her. That's
Right.
the important thing. You got to tell her,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it meant a lot to her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And she was also the guest on your program, on the
Right.
reading program at one time.
Yeah. We went over, you and Ken.
Yeah, my first cousin.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay. Well, you're going to read us another poem now. I just read Silhouettes
Okay.
that Ernestine has written, and that's about the hand that rocked the cradle, our mothers. Okay.
This poem is called An Angel Appeared in Our Presence Today, and it was written for my late cousin, Charles Adkins, Jr., who is the uncle of Ronnie Mullins, who sang the song a while ago. Charles was sick and he was dying, and he called and asked us to come down, and so we got to be with the family when he passed away. And I wrote this poem. An angel appeared in our presence today and took our dear brother and cousin away. He was a son to one of us, friend, father, husband, dearly beloved. We heard his last moan, we saw his last breath. Together we clung, and we sighed, and we wept. Oh, how our hearts grieved as he wafted away. But an angel appeared in our presence today.
And again, you said one of the main things that you hope when people read your poetry, that it would touch people's lives and within them create a emotional response or an emotional feeling. I'm sure that poem does it, Ernestine.
Yeah, and you know, the funny thing is, people touch my life, and that's why I write. And so I hope that I can give that back.
Okay, it's a full circle, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Now, we're reading some poems that Ernestine Meade has written and are available in her 2 books of poetry. Again, she is the host of the WVRG TV5 program called Writers Reading, and we're reading some of her poems today. On the program, she's had a lot of people who have come on and read their poems, and today we're reading some poems that Ernestine has written. Ernestine, the next poem that you have chosen here that I should read is a poem called A Perfect Woman. And I asked you earlier in the program if Crate back here was the perfect man. She said, Crate is the Sandman. Okay, now, we all seek perfection in others when perhaps instead of thinking about what that person can do for me, maybe we should think about, hey, what can I do for, instead of a husband saying, well, what can my wife do for me? Or the wife, maybe it should be, well, what can I do for my partner? What can I do for my spouse? Okay, this is a poem called A Perfect Woman. He sought a perfect woman to wear his wedding band. Of course, she must be lovely, the fairest in the land. She must be quite a charmer and educated, too, in any situation must know just what to do. Her name must be untainted, her reputation pure, her talents must be many, she must be rich for sure. At last one day he found her, a sweet and gentle femme, but sad I am to tell you she wouldn't look at him. He sought a perfect woman to wear his wedding band, but somehow he neglected to be the perfect man.
I hope the men won't get mad at me for that one.
They want it all. And perhaps not give us much in return. Her talents must be many. She must be rich for sure. At last one day he found her. So he found her. She was perfect. He wanted her. But what happened? Sad to tell you that she wouldn't look at him.
He wasn't worthy.
So.
Not of a perfect woman, anyway.
All right, Ernestine, the poem you have chosen, another one to read.
Okay, now this next poem, it may sound a little bit sacrilegious, but I don't mean it that way. Someone told me one day that she had read in the Bible that there would be spiders in heaven. And I searched my Bible and I couldn't find that. But anyway, I wrote a poem called Will There Be Any Spiders in Heaven? Will there be any spiders in heaven? Will we live with arachnids up there? Will they crawl up our backs? Will they sleep in our sacks? Will their webs tangle up in our hair? Will there be any roaches in heaven? Will the Lord grant to them afterlife? Will they walk on my toes? Will they clog up my nose? Will they crawl on my fork and my knife? If the Lord has a mansion for spiders, or for roaches, or cute little mice, then I guess it could be I might eternally be oppressed with a head full of lice.
Ernestine, of all the poems that we've read today, this is the one that brings a little humor into it, but it's really quite serious.
Right.
I don't think it's sacrilegious at all because, in the Bible, in Genesis, it talks about God created this, he created this creature, he created this creature, and what does it say? He says, and he saw that it was good. And he saw that it was good. So when he made a spider, he had a purpose for making a spider, did he not?
Right, I don't understand.
Any animal that God created, he created it for a specific person. There was a purpose, there was a reason why that he made it. But it says, and he saw that it was good.
And the Bible does say that even spiders dwell in mansions, which is true, no matter how nice a house you have, you're going to have spiders in there from time to time.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't, no matter how rich a mansion it might be, too, if you don't have somebody to keep it clean, it's going to create dust, isn't it? Just the essence of being there in time, So if cobwebs aren't clean from, no matter how expensive a place it is, those cobwebs are going to form up in the corners and the walls, aren't they? Because there's going to be spiders and little creepy, crawly creatures in there.
Right.
Things that go bump in the night. But now you've got another poem. Do you have another one from this book that you're going to read?
Yeah.
Okay, read us one more from that.
Okay, this one's called A Place to Lay My Head. I might have to explain this one a little bit. Maybe not. I'll read
do the
it.
explanation before or after. Why don't you read it, and then rather than explain it to us, let's let the viewer listen to it, and then they can create it in their own mind while you're reading what it's about, and then we'll let you give an explanation at the end of it.
Okay. A place to lay my head. I looked for love in the wind and flew boundlessly around the world, darting in and out of trees and clouds, caught up with sand and dust and leaves and smoke, on and on with no rest. Then I looked down and beheld the ground, calm and steady beneath the wildness of the wind, earthy, aromatic, bound, sometimes ruffled but immovable. And lighting, I found life and love and hope and peace and a place to lay my head and rest. Well, I don't know whether I want to explain it, because the actual explanation for this is a little bit personal. So I'll go ahead. I was married the first time to a man who was, how shall I put it?
Not the perfect man.
Not the perfect man. Not that I'm the perfect woman either, but he was kind of a rounder, I guess you would say. And so I was seeking love up in the clouds. And then when I met Crate, he was down to earth and immovable and strong like a rock. And so that's what the poem means to me. But to other people, I think it could mean that sometimes we look way out yonder for what we're wanting when actually it's in our own backyard.
Grass isn't always greener in the other pastures.
Right.
Now, we're going to read one from a magazine called Century, but before we do that, I want to read one more poem, and then I want you to read one more poem.
Okay.
And I was now looking at the back of the book, and I didn't know this poem was on there, but I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to just guess if I can know what this is about, because I think this is highly personal, too. Let's get the poem. The poem is called I Am Free, and there's a picture of Ernestine. You're a little bit younger there. Don't know how much, but one or 2 years?
Probably 2 or 3.
About 2 years ago? you just have your hair fixed a little more stylish. Right? You look like you're free in that picture, Ernestine. Yeah, you sure do. Anyway, I like that. I figured it was 1 or 2 years ago. Anyway, the poem is called I Am Free, and apparently this poem means a lot to you and stands out because it's the one you chose to put on the back of the cover.
Right.
So it must be a little more special than, I mean, I'm sure all the poems are special, but this one must hold some special significance to me. Huh? I am free. One by one the chains have fallen and I am free. They have no power over me. Those who would shackle my spirit and burden my body, they shall play God no more. And only he shall pilot me.
You want to know what that means?
I want to know, did that have anything to do with your divorce?
Oh, really? Is that what you thought?
Well, that's what I thought. The chains that have fallen and now I am free. Or is it spiritual? Does it have to do with good and evil, God and the devil?
It's everything. It is my divorce. It's my family. It's everything. I grew up. I'm the fourth in 5 girls, and I'm the fourth. And when you have older sisters, they tend to, I don't know, shape you. And everything I did, I thought had to pass through their filter. And then also, spiritually speaking, you know, everybody tells you this is a sin, that's a sin, and you have a hard time figuring it out for yourself. They don't want you to figure it out for yourself. And I think when I hit 40, it was like everything changed for me. And I know some people probably don't like the idea of getting older, but 40 was a magic age for me. I just felt like everything had fallen, all the chains, all the ways that people were strapping me down, strapping my body down by saying, you got to wear this, you got to wear that, and strapping my spirit down, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to believe this, you got to believe that. Finally, I was free, and that's what that poem's about.
I am free. Ernestine, I am free. You have another poem that we're going to take here from the magazine called Century, but before we do that, I want to hear the song about the poem about the washing machine. Is it in this book or that book?
It's in this one.
Why don't Ernestine, I really like this. This is the only poem in the book that before we were doing the program today here that I think that I really knew very much about. But just listen to what Ernestine says about a washing machine and how in everyday life And there's people using washing machines out there every day of their lives and probably never thought of some of the things Ruben Ernestine associates with just ordinary tasks like washing clothes.
An ordinary task that I have to do every day almost.
Ernestine keeps it clean, the washing machine.
It's called We See It All. We see it all, don't we, you and I? We see the dung and the blood and the oil and the mud. We see the ketchup and the jam and the nail polish and lipstick. Sometimes we find a love note or a test paper someone tried to hide. We learn a lot that they would not confide. Day in and day out, we make them come clean. My daily companion, my washing machine.
And all those little things about people that you can just learn by washing clothes. Who would have thought it?
And that just goes to show you that you can write a poem about anything.
Every day, ordinary things that you do every single day. Okay, 2 books of poetry. One is called Down Mare Creek Road, published by Mark Soames Publishing Company. That's the first book. And Up Hurricane Road, a collection of poems by Ernestine Mead, is Ernestine's second book of poetry. She has published this book herself. Ernestine, you've had one of your poems appear in a national magazine that has been distributed throughout 48 states in the United States of America. Why don't you hold the magazine up, show it to us, tell us a little bit about it, and then read your poem from it.
Well, this is called Century Magazine, and it's a religious magazine. And you know, we were talking about the internet. Well, I've been sending some of my poems in, and the gentleman who is the publisher of this magazine, his name is Floyd Chapelier. He's French. He saw the poem and he wrote to me and asked me if I would allow him to put it in the magazine, and he gave me a year's free subscription to the magazine. And of course, I was just thrilled to be able to have him publish it. And I guess I'll read that to you right now.
Okay, from the Century Magazine, here's our very own poet, renowned Ernestine Mead.
This poem is called He's Not the Man I Married. And by the way, the publisher of this paper said that he wished that his wife had written this about him.
Oh, envy.
He's not the man I married. He's aged a bit since then. The hair that touched his shoulders is trimmed and rather thin. His waist, a 32 then, is now a 38, as pizza, pie, and pasta have passed upon his plate. His life back then was fuller. He wanted all he saw. But now his greatest pleasure is watching babies crawl. He's not the man I married, a token in the house. Thank God, the man I married is finally my spouse.
Thank God, the man I married is finally my spouse. Yeah, if you want it, you can get it. You just got to try hard enough, don't you, huh? So happiness comes at last. Okay,
right.
What a wonderful poem. I enjoy that. It's taken from Century Magazine. It's been published and distributed throughout 48 states in the United States of America. I think it's been in Alaska and Hawaii. Ernestine, every state except probably what 2 states?
North Dakota and Wyoming. I don't know
well,
why.
we don't know why, but I don't know. Maybe they got...
But you know what?
Too bad for those 2 states, huh?
You know what I'm thinking of doing? I'm thinking of getting on the internet and saying, is there anybody in Wyoming and North Dakota that would like to have a poem?
And there it'd be in there, huh?
That way, I'll send them a poem and I'll have my poetry in all 50 states.
Yeah. So you can surf the internet and find Ernest. By the way, say we got somebody over at Phelps. We got somebody over at Maplewood. We got somebody at the Wheelwright, and they got a personal computer, and they want to read Ernestine's poetry on the internet. What do they punch up? What do they key in, you know?
Oh, I don't know. I've been meaning to get a home page. I don't know how to do anything. I have to get my sons to do it, and I can't get them off the internet long enough to get back on for me.
They're on there surfing.
Right. But I'm wanting to get a home page so that I can put some of my poetry on there, and then I could tell them how to get there.
Okay.
I just haven't got around to doing that yet.
Okay. And then and how do they get the books?
Well, the books, Jerry Boyd is opening up Kentucky Coal Miner. I don't know whether you've seen that. It's like a crafts shop up here at Hamilton's Hardware. And it's up there. Both books are up there. I think they may have opened up today. Then at Brooks Pharmacy.
Brooks Pharmacy at Betsy Lane.
The Pikeville Public Library. And of course they can get them from me. My address is 51 Benny Mead Road, Pikeville, Kentucky 41501.
Or I guess your name's in the phone book if they want.
Right, Crate Mead.
Crate Mead on Hurricane Creek. So you can call Crate or call Ernestine here, and they'll probably send them a little postage, probably put that right out in the mail and mail you the book of poetry if you would like that. We're getting ready to wrap it up here, but before we go, Ernestine, over the past couple of years, you've been the host of the very popular program called Writers Reading here on WPRG TV5. Tell us about the recent poetry contest. We've had a couple of those in which we've awarded some cash prizes to people who have written poetry, and we just recently had one on the TV.
Well, we had 8 winners. We had it from 4th grade through adult this year. This was the first time we'd ever did it for the adults. And I really think they probably enjoyed it as much as the kids did. I know they seemed to anyway. And I thought everybody who was on the show was such a good guest.
Oh, they were, yeah.
I enjoyed that. And this is, I guess, the 3rd year that we've done
We've had
this.
the contest. And I just noticed that in last week's edition of the Appalachian News Express newspaper that you published the winners' names and had their pictures there in the newspaper as well. So not only were they on television winning the poetry, and we had them on here on the WPRG Writers Reading Program reading their poetry, but they also got the picture in the local paper and got some recognition that way. Who are some of the more interesting people that you've had over the years, Ernestine, on the Writers Reading Program? I know that the list has to be long, and you certainly won't be able to name all of your guests that you've had on the program, but what are some of the guests that you remember, or some of the most famous, most renowned guests you've had on the show?
Well, of course, your Aunt Alice Kinder. She was one of my all-time favorites. She was such a sweet lady and such a talented woman. So I enjoyed having her on there.
And such a prolific writer. I mean, she's written so many poems, and not only poems, but she's had those poems published in numerous magazines and periodicals, educational magazines, religious magazines. And not only that, she's written several books as well, so I'm sure that she's probably, and of course, wrote for many, many years for the Appalachian News Express with the Mountain Footsteps and the Mountain Roots column that she wrote in the newspaper. So.
Yeah, I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed it when they put the book about Mayor Hambly in the newspaper.
Yes.
I loved getting the paper every week and reading the next installment on that because I didn't have the book.
Yeah, and I think my Aunt Alice Kinder at that time that she was writing the Mountain Roots was doing a lot of the sort of work that June Johnson is now doing, as June Johnson is spotlighting, different families and tracing their history and their position in society in Eastern Kentucky. What June Johnson is now doing is what my Aunt Alice Kinder had originally done, and now June Johnson is carrying on that work.
Well, mentioning June Johnson, she was on the show, too, on the Writers Reading Program. And, of course, Mark Sohn and Chessie Cornett, Eugene Cisco.
Chessie Cornett, that's a big name we're talking about in the literary world, isn't it?
Right. She has 2 books, a poetry book and then a novelette and some short stories. And then from Somerset, we had someone all the way from Somerset, Art Ogden. He had published a commentary on Revelation. And then we had a lady from Clarence, New York, Bethany Tatara. She was on not too long ago. We had a lady from Beauty, Kentucky. I'm not sure. I think that's in Martin County.
It is.
Okay, her name was...
Near Warfield, I think.
Okay, Darla Stacy was her name. Of course, we had Ronnie Mullins on before, who just sang
her song over here, Mr. Sandman.
Larry Webster, who does Red Dog.
Everybody knows Larry.
And also, when I was living in we visited Texas last summer, and we took our video camera with us, and I had a couple of friends down there who write poetry, and so I did a show with them while I was down there. And we've had students from the different schools, and so many more I can't remember. But we've had a lot of people over the years.
Yes, some very prominent people that are well known in literary circles, and also some people who have written poetry who perhaps may have got their very first exposure on television right here on WPRG TV5 on the Writers Reading Program. Ernestine, coming up following this show, I'll make a suggestion here. You think it'd be a good idea if we, in remembrance of Alice Justice Kinder, played back the Writers Reading Program where you interviewed my Aunt Alice Kinder?
I'd love that. That'd be great.
You think the viewers would enjoy seeing that?
Yeah.
In remembrance of Alice Kinder, if you'll stay tuned, coming up here in just a few minutes after we wrap it up here with Ernestine, we'll have Ernestine Meade's Writers Reading Program, the program in which she interviewed author Alice Justice Kinder, and this will be in remembrance of Alice. my aunt, Alice Kinder, and we'll show that coming up.
Okay.
And hopefully the folks will enjoy watching that again.
The novel that I'm working on.
This is something new that you're working on, yeah?
Yeah, well, it's not so new. I've had it written for quite some time, but Mrs. Kinder wanted to read it.
Yes.
She asked me if she could read my manuscript.
Yes.
And so I took it to her, and she said she would, try to read it. It was like 300 and some pages long. And she called me just within a few days, and she said she could not put it down. It just thrilled me.
Oh,
She
my.
is so encouraging.
I think that's one of the primary personality traits about my Aunt Alice Kinder, was she encouraged everyone to go on and be their very, very best. She knew that you had talent, that other people that she's encouraged had talent, and urged that talent to grow, to nurture it, didn't she?
Yeah, and you know what? She would cut out, if you were in the paper, she would cut it out and write you a little note and send it to you. And the other day, when the article came out in the paper about me, guess who I got a letter from? Jerry Kinder.
Yes.
And I thought, how sweet that she was doing that. And, she'd cut it out, and she sent me a little card with Pikeville College on it.
Yes.
And she mentioned your aunt and how she would have been proud of me. It was really nice.
Yeah.
I appreciated that.
Well, if you folks watching this right now here on WPRG will stay tuned. Coming up immediately following this program, in remembrance of Alice Justice Kinder, we will air the Writer's Reading Program where Ernestine interviews Alice Kinder. That'll be coming up next. Well, Ernestine, on our talk show today, we talked about you, your life, the lady born to write. And you've now had 2 books of poetry. You've had your poetry published in the Century Magazine. And you mentioned that you're working on a couple of novels that you've been working on for quite some time, but these aren't published yet, are they? What kind of novels are we talking about? What's your subject matter here?
Well, the adult novel is about a woman who's divorced and gets remarried, and the struggles she goes through, the financial struggles, emotional struggles, spiritual struggles, and she learns throughout this book, she learns to make it on her own. Not necessarily financially, but emotionally. She learns to stand on her own 2 feet. She begins sort of as a childlike person, very immature, very dependent on other people. But she matures through that, and she also goes through the pain of remembering incest when she was a child, and just different things that had happened to her that she recalls through going to a psychologist. And it's a very intricate story. And I think people would like it if I can ever get it published.
Well, get it published and get it out there. Okay, that's your adult novel.
Right.
Now, you're also working on some other material?
I have a trilogy of children's stories, and I'm thinking of making that maybe 5 or 6 books. I started out when I was 5 years old on Mare Creek, and I tell everything from falling down in a toilet hole to stealing my sister's love letters and hiding under the school building and reading them. Of course, it's not all true. I make up a lot of it. But it is 3 novels about, I guess they're about 100 pages each. And the first one is called The Soup Bean War.
The Soup Bean War?
Yeah. I had an older sister who didn't like soup beans, and the whole book basically comes about because she gets into all kinds of trouble stealing money and going to the store, and she buys cigarettes. She ends up burning down a house. It's
Oh, I don't know how enlightening, but it certainly sounds entertaining.
Now, the trilogy of children's books are funny. They're very humorous. And like I said, my sister never burned down a house. But I don't know whether you remember when Sheriff Wheeler Lewis' house burned down. He lived on Mare Creek, and he was sheriff of Floyd County, and his house burned down. I can remember that very vividly because I was real tiny, and my parents took me down, and we stood across the road, and I was scared to death because I could feel the heat.
Yeah.
And I just took that memory and wrote it into my book.
My. So in the future, some novels that we can look forward to from the lady born to write, Ernestine Meade. Ernestine, my final question to you. What's your biggest dream?
I want to have a book published and have a movie made out of it. That's what I would love to do.
The world is your oyster. You're the pearl. You're the lady born to write. Do it, okay?
I'll try my best.
All right. Thank you, Ernestine. It's been a pleasure talking with you today, reading your poetry. I've certainly enjoyed it, and I know that everyone out there has as well.
Well, thank you. I've had a great time.
Okay. Thank you again. And our thanks to Ronnie over here for singing the song. Again, our guest today has been Ernestine Meade, and she is the author 2 books of poetry. She has just had one of her poems turned into a popular music song called "A Sandman," and that's available on cassette tape. And you can also watch for Ernestine in the future. She says that her greatest dream, to publish some novels and to write a movie, script. The lady born to write, Ernestine Meade, our guest today. I'm Dr. Donald Bevins for WPRG TV5, your local hometown television. Thank you for joining us.